Nicodemus here. Topic of the day. How do we know we're listening to the Holy Spirit?
I get this question a lot, actually, because people invariably will ask, well, how do I know? I mean, there's only two teachers in my mind, one being the ego, one being the Holy Spirit. And when we talk about Holy Spirit, we need to define what the Holy Spirit is. And of course, the Holy Spirit is a voice for God. So the Course says the Holy Spirit is in you in a very literal sense. It does not say God is in you. It says you are a part of God. So it actually says the Holy Spirit is in us in a very literal sense. God is not in you in a literal sense. You are a part of God. So there's a distinction between God, the Holy Spirit, and you and I. Let's call it the Christ, the creation of the Creator. So just a quick story around it, or at least what the Course says, is that ultimately it comes down to a tiny mad idea where we thought we were separate from God. And this is really the story of Adam and Eve, the biting of the apple, the fall from grace, the separation in India, the Maya, the samsara, entering the wheel of suffering, whatever you want to call it, is that somewhere we forgot and thought, dreamt up this dream of separation. And we know that because look at our experience. Every human being at some point feels like they're separate. And it seems part of the game here. Now, what the Course says in terms of the story, or as it tells the story of the Holy Spirit, is that in the moment you forgot, the Holy Spirit was given to you as the answer to remember. So it's the voice for God in your mind, and it's very dim in our minds. It's like this flame that is burning so small that we have to express it and we have to extend it. We have to learn of the Holy Spirit and extend that teaching out into the world to all of our brothers and sisters and all beings so that it strengthens in our thoughts. And because what he says in the Course is that when the light of the Holy Spirit is so dim that you must extend it, really teach it to learn it, extend it to secure it for yourself. So think about that for a moment, is that there's a line in the Course, one of the actually lessons of the Holy Spirit is to have peace, teach peace, to learn it. So we have to teach it because we're like little kids and we don't really know it. So in teaching it, we learn it. In teaching the curriculum of the Holy Spirit and extending it out to the world, we reinforce it for ourselves. So how do we know if we're doing that? Well, the good thing is that the Holy Spirit's curriculum and the ego's curriculum are diametrically opposed. They're different in every aspect. So partial allegiance is impossible. And you know which one you're listening to based on how you feel. You know which one you're listening to based on the results that show up. Like if I'm in a marriage and I go, I'm listening to the Holy Spirit, but my wife and I are fighting all the time, I'm clearly not listening to the Holy Spirit. If I say, well, I'm listening to the Holy Spirit and I end up suffering, somewhere I chose wrong-mindedness, I know based on the results. We would say something like this in the trainings where you know you're based on the results. That's where you know where you're operating from. Well, in the Course, I know based on what's showing up in my life. Am I living in scarcity? Do I have anxiety and sickness and illness and fear and doubt? And that's showing up in my relationships, in my bank account, in my, my health. If it's showing up, I'm learning from the wrong teacher. The wrong teacher being the ego, because we'll know it by the fruits, if you will. And then what ends up happening is the world witnesses back to us to show which teacher we chose. So it witnesses, so we choose which teacher to listen to, and then the world witnesses back to us to show us which teacher we chose. That's how we know. And that's actually the correct use of the body, because listening to the Holy Spirit, we're calm, we're quiet, it's like this surety, this confidence, a knowingness, if you will. Now, the Holy Spirit can communicate through us. It doesn't, Helen was scribing and she could see images very well and pictures very well and heard the voice, and the voice dictated the course, which the voice turned to, who is this? Well, this is Jesus. I mean, people can say what they want, all they want about it, and they could, all this stuff around religion, all this. Well, if the idea of Jesus is that he could resurrect on the third day, right, and transcend death, then he could communicate through our minds. Now, let's say Helen's teaching contribution was to channel what this body of work is. For you, it might look totally different. For me, it might look totally different. For someone else, it may be a song I hear on the radio, or something I read. Oh, I watched this show. Oh, like you just start to, each of us our curriculum is highly individualized. So the Holy Spirit is communicating to you very directly about what's perfect for your curriculum. And even Jesus says in the course, like his teaching contribution of, the crucifixion and all that doesn't need to be ours. You and I have very different roles, very different teaching curriculum. So that really makes it highly individualized, and all you and I have to do, people ask me, like, I feel like I can't hear the Holy Spirit. There's a line in the course of chapter 4, section 4, where it says, if you can't hear the voice of the Holy Spirit, it's because you do not choose to listen. Wait, you're like, but I want to listen, but I'm still not hearing it. So what the whole idea is, if that you and I listen to the ego and its dictates, and we could tell by our attitudes, our moods, our thoughts, it's really evident to see that we listen to the ego, because look at how often we're not at peace. Look at how many times we've had the opportunity to be joyful and be gladdened, and we turn them down. I mean, myself included. And this is like a million times, millions. I mean, even since I started studying this stuff, a lot of times. So if we don't hear the voice of the Holy Spirit, it's because we do not choose to listen. Now, that our whole life becomes about learning to listen. If we start to make our life about learning to listen, then the question isn't, how do I hear the Holy Spirit? The question becomes, is what kind of listener am I? What kind of listener ultimately am I? And we know, because we start to feel at peace. We start to want to only teach love and give love to every situation. We start to seek out the correction of our thoughts and our minds. So with that, it's really what developing ourselves as a listener. And then you start to see that the Holy Spirit is communicating to us. It's a direct communication all the time, that it's never broken. It's always there. So as we start to turn away from the things that we've put in the way of the way I think it should look and the way I want it to be, like I'm the one teaching myself, when we fire ourselves as our own teacher, it becomes very easy to listen. And we know in the results, we know in how our relationships look and how often we feel peaceful and abundant and free and joyful. That's how we ultimately know.